Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ball Watching, ladies and gentlemen. Jake Koenig, Justin Graham on the mics here. And time of recording, I'm just going to skip right to it. What are you watching, Justin? We are watching City 2 kick off here shortly, missing their manager, David Critchley, but under some excellent caretaker management by John Hackworth. So we'll be keeping you all apprised here if any updates flow in as we record the show. But we've got a loaded agenda here today. And Justin, you were on site last night for the U.S. women's national team game. How was that?
It was awesome. Sorry, I was trying to get City 2 up because they were on a rain delay and they're supposed to be starting literally within like 2 minutes of this. But U.S. women's national team game last night was honestly electric. We thought it was going to be a nice hot night in St. Louis. Turned out to be beautiful. Jake, we ended up having 17,700 fans, which seems a little light for City Park, but it didn't seem like it when you were there. Tons of friends, tons of family there. The pitch was absolutely buzzing an hour ahead of time. The women won 4-0. They had two first half goals versus Ali Senator in the 19th and the 28th. And then two second half goals with Lynn Bayundulu in the 60th and the 88th. I was trying to look at this team. I know this is not like the A squad that was coming through. I only recognized a couple names, but neither of those are ones that I'd really had heard before, but could have easily been a 6 or 7-0 game. We held 82% of the possession. We outshot Jamaica 23-2 overall and 10-0 on shots on target. Additionally, corners were 12-0 for us. But the coolest thing about the whole night was Becky Soundbrun, St. Louis native, who retired in December. She was honored right before the game. She played 16 years for the U.S. women's national team, 2 World Cup championships, an Olympic gold medalist, and a longtime captain for them. 10th most caps for the U.S. women's national team, which is 55 more than the next active player, Lindsey Horan, who also, when she came on, the crowd went absolutely nuts. There were so many little girls screaming with Lindsey Horan jerseys. I think she's probably one of the new favorites and stars of this team.
A cool night. No, it looked awesome. Yeah, I wasn't able to get there, but I was watching some of the broadcasts, and yeah, the Becky Sauerbrunn honors were so well deserved, and it looked like it meant a lot to her and her family. And the St. Louisans let her have it, let her have the limelight, and it looked like the moment meant a lot to her. So I'm glad that we could provide that. And by the way, we've said this before. I love the women's team coming here too. We've obviously see the men's team as well. The more and more these games happen, obviously one would have this hypothesis, but I think we're biased, right? I think we could make a nice home, not the home, but a nice home venue for both national teams. Not that the women have it nearly as bad as the men's when it comes to basically playing away in every stadium that you go to, besides like Columbus, Cincinnati, St. Louis, maybe even Kansas City. But it's nice to be considered for those matches, right? Where you can fill a stadium, have a lot of support, make it super loud, super fun. And I love that we're slowly kind of like positioning ourselves into the rotation for both national teams.
No, absolutely. That was one thing that Danny asked me. She was like, because we saw a little girl holding up a sign that she came from Denver. And Danny's like, that is a long way for a game like this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, honestly, it's not. I mean, it's a long way, but it doesn't happen very often. And then honestly, I really do think that keeping those games in the Midwest is very important, especially when you start to play some CONCACAF games, because if you go more south or more west over to California, you start to lose that home effect. You keep that in St. Louis, you keep it in Cincinnati. Those are going to be staying predominantly U.S. fans, whether it's the men's or the women's team. So it was an awesome showing, and it was really cool to see, and it was awesome to see that many people out at City Park trying all the different food. I did a couple laps because we never walk around that much. We just walk in, go seats, walk out. But it was really cool to see, and I was really happy that we got to host something like that.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, soccer's on the mind this week, right? We got that game was last night. TST, which you're going to talk about a little bit here for the next couple of minutes, is on as of today. The soccer tournament. TST is 7v7. It's a blast. You'll talk about it, Justin. But obviously, we'll get to the game as well. But if you are a footy fan, it's a good week. You've got Nations League as well over in Europe. You've got our boys getting into camp for the U.S. men's national team as well. They have some friendlies coming up, I think, on the weekend. So soccer is everywhere. I know that it's officially, dead league-wise overseas. But here, we're in the middle of MLS. You've got international tournaments galore. You got Club World Cup coming up. So the footy does not stop because Europe takes a snooze. It's actually, I feel like, really hitting its peak in the summer.
Yeah, the Champions League final was on during the City game. We were going to go watch it at the pitch after, but when our game ended, it was 4-0, ended up being 5-0. So congrats to PSG on that. City 2 is 2 minutes into their match now, Jake, so they kicked off. I'm going to give a quick blurb on the TST because I think this is some exciting stuff to watch, especially when you're kind of at work and if you need a little lunch break or something like that. 2 soccer tournaments in TST, one for the men, one for the women. 77 soccer tournament. The field is 65 yards long, 45 yards wide. Goals are about the size of when we were playing little league ball, Jake, like 8v8. We're like, we could probably now like do a little like 3-inch jump and hit our head on the crossbar, which makes it that much more challenging. But it is a massive tournament. 48 teams on the guys' side, and it's a worldwide competition, but it's happening in North Carolina. Winner takes all $1 million prize, featuring 12 groups of 4 teams in the group stage, and then a knockout of 32. The coolest thing about this tournament, Jake, along from the size of the field and the quickness of it, is one, the teams that are playing in it, and the notable teams that you can look at for that that are actually using their former players: Atletico Madrid, Bournemouth, Wrexham. Players that are playing in this: Sergio Aguero, Diego Godin, Andy Carroll, Nani, Sebastian Giovinco. And then if you talk about the women's side, the U.S. women's actually has their own team in this, and they won last tournament with Carly Lloyd, and they're coming back with Allie Long, Heather O'Reilly, and others to try to repeat. But my second favorite thing about this, Jake, is the target score time. So this ensures that every match ends in a game-winning goal. It doesn't matter if the score is 6-0. And how do you decide with that then? A game-winning goal? It's not who scores next. It says once the full-time whistle blows, the target score is set. It's calculated from the leading team score +1. Then the teams play until one of the 2 teams reaches the target score. So say if I'm beating Jake 3-1, the target score is 4. I just need 1 goal. He needs 3. If that wasn't electrifying enough, a player from each team is removed every 3 minutes until the target score is reached. So it's extremely exciting to watch. And the team that everybody that in St. Louis needs to be looking out for is Dueling for Lincoln. It's a St. Louis-based team with 2 of my favorite guys, former Academy center back with me, Jordan Klipsch, as well as one of my favorite upperclassmen when I was playing on the team at SLU, Mr. Robbie Christo. This Dueling for Lincoln team, you should look them up because they have an incredible story as to why they're named Dueling for Lincoln as they raise funds and awareness for juvenile leukemia with a focus on the Heartbeat Animal Program. And I got the chills when I read this, Jake, which provides a recorded heartbeat of a loved one in a stuffed animal. It's just insane. They took a tough L earlier today, 4-2 against Newtown Pride, who actually won the tournament in 2023. But they will be playing right after our show at 9 p.m. You can check it out on YouTube. I'll post a link in there later. They're playing against LCF Academy. I'm like, who is this? So I went and looked up what they describe themselves. Passionate street football team from Switzerland with roots in Los Angeles. I'm like, oh boy, the boys might be in for a tough one. And another shout out real quick, Hoosier Army. AJ Palazzolo is playing for them. They're also in TST.
Yeah, AJ, doesn't AJ hold the honors of, I think, second guest of the show, Justin? When you're doing that back in 2022? Yeah, right. I think he followed Jim
He did.
as our one of our first interviews. Yeah, crazy blast from the past. But hey, and I think you catch all the action right on YouTube is where anyone can go watch these. Super accessible. Everyone's got YouTube. Everyone's got a browser, and these are free. So for me, I like watching these. It's not what you would think sometimes. Like when you play pickleball with your family, there's a way that you play with your family. Then you watch professional pickleball, and it's really different from how you play with your family. A lot of balls in the kitchen, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. But TST, you'd expect just madness, right? Like just high tempo madness, 7v7. These guys are very skilled, very technical. It's not just an athlete's game. I think, in fact, the field dimensions really encourage it to be a very technical game. And there's a lot of tactical side of this. So it's really fun to watch how different teams approach it, almost like they're on power play sometimes, knocking kind of the horseshoe of death around the opponent goal. So I really encourage everyone to check it out. I love when people do soccer interpretations differently. And this is a really attractive, fun way to watch the game. I think the end game is by far my favorite with the target scores and the taking the guy out the field. Like, it's electric. So I encourage you all to check it out.
This is one that I think it's not just a bunch of guys that have been kind of thrown together. The Dueling for Lincoln trains all season, and you've seen this. When you go click around on these teams, it's insane to see some of these stars that are playing this, and it's a load of fun. And like I said, it's going on throughout the day, all day, and into the night. So if you're looking for something to do right after this, if you want to you're going to put little City 2 on one screen and Dueling for Lincoln on another and just have a nice little St. Louis night, that's what we got for you.
Love it. Yeah, City 2, like you said, has kicked off. No score from what I'm seeing yet. But let's talk about some players here, Justin, because if you're looking at that 11, actually, you see Jay Reed is in the starting 11 tonight for City 2. But there's been some movement. We're in June now, and the reason we have movement right now in June is because June is when some of our loans either expire or that are outgoing, like we've loaned players out, and they're also the time for a guy like Horn for his loan to end on June 30th. So the reason June 30th usually picked is more about overseas soccer, right? Because their season is done and dusted, right around or right in the very early part of June if you're in any like late cup competitions. So that's usually the time frame for these loans to end if it's a full season loan or a half season loan from the back half. So all of that to say, I think we might be done with Giannis Horn, which I was in particular very, very surprised about because we got him last season. He added, I think, probably one. For me, Jesse, he's probably a top two, top three defender at the club for us. He fit that three back system perfectly at left center back. And I do think maybe I get it more now if we're really, really moving away from it. But his loan expires at the end of this month. And apparently the option that came for purchase as part of that loan was set to expire on the 1st of June. We did not trigger it. So we've been seeing reports coming from overseas around him being linked to other teams. I believe Austria, Rapid Vienna is the team that he's being linked most heavily to. But, anyone that has an affinity for him, me included, looks like he's on his way out, which frees up an international spot for us. And there's also some movement on the other side, Justin. So before I get your Horn thoughts, Thorsten is gone, no longer with us. He was on loan in the Eredivisie in the Netherlands, in the Dutch league, and that his team, Sparta Rotterdam, finished number 12. We don't know exactly what they ended up purchasing him for as part of the contract. I bet we got pretty similar, if not a little bit more, for what we bought him for, which is around $600,000. It's not a huge return there, but really like a net even, if I had to guess. But Thor is off the books. Blum and Pedro both returned from their loans, however, and I doubt either of them get a sniff at the first team. That they don't just walk back in. First of all, we don't even have room for both of them. They're both internationals. We only have one spot with Horn leaving. So I don't think they'll be entertained, especially Blum, right, with the history that he had with Hackworth towards the end of his time last season. And Pedro has never gotten the sniff either. So they'll probably be stashed away. But there has been some roster change. So I wanted to make sure we drew attention to that.
Yeah, I think it's something that we need to be monitoring because, it's very nice to have an international spot in our pocket and kind of maybe shows a little bit of the hand of what we're looking for here, especially if we're not going to be pulling Pedro back up or Blum, which I agree with you. I don't think we'll be doing either of them. Some other notable news as well. Joyner is in Spain for the U19 U.S. Youth National Team. That's from June 2nd to June 11th. And then Tyson Pierce, also in Switzerland for the U18 Youth National Team. That's from May 28th to June 11th as well. So we're going to be missing those guys. You won't see them either for City 2 or coming back up to the first team. We've talked about this one. I feel like Joyner is one that has kind of come up and down a little bit recently. I would have liked to see him actually get minutes at his true position and playing up top, but not going to be the case because I think when he gets back, going to need to get reintegrated and all of this, and who knows what will be probably mid to late June. So just some things to mention there, but then also that's positive notes why guys are out, but also some negative notes. Obviously, then a training inside this week was Alm, Toyshirt, and Durkin, and Hebert also out, and Nilsson also out. Nilsson early July for his knee and foot mop.
Yeah, fun stuff on Nilsson. I'm officially adding Rasmus Alm to the Glass crew, of which Nilsson is the president right now. But Alm, again, I'm not counting on him at all for the rest of the season. Nor do I think even if he's healthy that he offers too much for us. But again, an option to have. I would love to welcome him back. But I do want to mention Horn is back in full training. In my opinion, usually teams kind of take this in between period a little bit weird, right? Because he's like our player for the rest of June, but he is going somewhere else and he will have an off season right as soon as he's done with us. I think we will play him unless we have a handshake agreement with whatever that next club is, which for us, we're not even selling him. Our loan is expiring, and then his parent club will actually have to sell him. So it's a really tricky situation, but it sounds like he's available. Toyshirt and Durkin, we know took both knocks in the last game. Durkin didn't look really healthy at all for it. So I'm hoping those two, it sounds like they're day-to-day right now. Hebert sounds like had his first. So he was on fatherhood duty for this last week and did not make the bench, but it sounds like he'll be available as well. So really, we're almost there, Justin. It's the Nilsson situation still that's festering. We don't know much about Alm, obviously, but the boys are really getting healthy at a good time in the season. We got half the season left to play. Other teams, I feel like, are starting to kind of hit their injury crises or get a lot of fixtures congested on their schedules. So we're peaking from a health perspective, I feel like, at a really good time.
Absolutely. I think this is a time where we talked about it. So we'll talk about the recap first, and then we'll go into the preview of Portland. But Portland's currently sitting fifth in the Western Conference. But yeah, then we're gonna have another tough one after that with Orlando. But between there, we have what is it an 11-day? So we'll have LA Galaxy at home on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Fine. That's a 6-day rest. But then we'll have 11 days before we have to play Orlando, which is another tough competition. So this time period is great for us. And I think it's one that we really need to take advantage of and make sure that we're not playing 11 before the day before a game or really pushing these guys out in this weather right now. You never know with the heat and the cooling and all this and all the rain. But Jake, real quick, before we get into the recap of the San Jose game, I wanted to give shout outs to listeners. We had a couple from Saturday, San Jose. Jonathan, he was the winner of the gift card at the pitch. Thank you for coming up, being the first one to say that to us. We also had Anthony, him and his wife, I believe, that were the ones that won the pitch jersey. They were second. And then we had a Washmo crew. You were very confused how they just kept coming out of the woods. We had so many people, Mindy, Missy, Craig and his family, Alex Severino. We just had people like, Washmo? And they just come up, grab beer, and we just hang out outside the pitch. So massive shout out to them. And then also Jake got one last night, the U.S. women's national team. I had two, actually. One dude just dapped me up when I was trying to find my seat. I was looking like a huge dumbass. I was looking around. He's like, hey, ball watching? And I'm like, yep, what's up? He's like, I keep looking for your seat. Very polite guy. The other one was Dave. Dave stopped by and talked to me for a bit. Former Billiken soccer player as well. He was there before we were at SLU, so I didn't know him prior to. But he said, it's awesome seeing you guys continue to progress as a podcast. And then he added on that he's a big Arsenal fan. I said, so is Jake. And he listens to some high-level podcasts, which I also plugged Pete's Wood. And he said, yeah, that's one of them. And he said, you guys are starting to push that. And I really appreciated that. That was an awesome compliment to receive at the U.S. women's national team game.
Love it. And hey, a reaffirmation, Justin. We are not too cool to be said hi to or to be talked to or to do anything with when we are out. If you guys see us, definitely stop by, say hi. Chances are we'll probably hook into you for at least a couple of minutes and chat a little city, get those predictions locked in, and absolutely give you shout outs here at the very least. So if you're liking, again, what you're hearing, make sure you let us know if that's in person, but you can also do it here on the podcast forums on YouTube. Like, subscribe to the show. Make sure you show us some love. Leave us a review. We got some thumbs downs, Justin, on a couple of YouTube videos recently. I don't know who's out to get us, but at least leave a review so we kind of can understand it if you can. But again, we love the feedback. Love hearing from you all. Love seeing you all even more. So make sure you keep coming out and saying hi. Justin, I was, arriving to Energizer Park on Saturday after we had a couple cold ones at the pitch, basking in this weather. And I saw the 11 graphic come out. I was perplexed, and I don't that you can fault me for that. I think a lot of people were, but I was also excited about the prospect of seeing a full, match from this 11, even with some question marks, right? But it was, to me, first game, David Critchley comes in and rocks the boat's the wrong phrase, but I think he aims to disrupt in a positive way. He's not here to just continue what's already been done before him. He's here to, make some changes, obviously formationally, approaching with the 4-2-3-1 like he said he would do. Chris Durkin starting at center back, Justin. We started 9 of our 11 best 11. I got to give Mike from Chat City Tactics to credit there, coining basically the hypothesis, which is not crazy at all, that when you start more than 8 of your 11 best players, which we have been able to do, I think, on 4 occasions now this year, we are a much, much better team when it comes to all things: points, goals for, goals against. That's now 4 games, Justin. We've started 8 plus of our best 11 available. Best 11, sorry, available is the whole keyword there. Best 11. And when we do that, we have 10 points in those 4 games. So 10 of 12 possible, where it's obviously 3-1, averaging 2.5 points per game. This just gives me hope, Justin. Like, if you can get over that health bug that we seem just to be caught in hell with, you can maybe have some chances at accumulating some serious points here. I mean, 4 matches with 8 of your 11, not even 9, not 10, 8 of your best 11, and you're getting 10 points from that. It does give you a glimmer of hope.
That then, wow, I just stuttered. So I'm kind of pissed off about the stat. That then means on the 12 games where we didn't do that, we've amounted 4 points total. Yeah. We played 16 games and we only have 14 points. So that one is a tough one to swallow and a tough one to say. But yes, you mentioned this. The thing that was perplexing, we're like, all right, well, one, the admin went back to actually putting people in order of what their position is, which almost confused me more. I'm like, are they doing this? Because Durkin's a center back. And I was just like, what is going on? But when you think about that, I'm like, all right, fine. Because you look about who's in front of him. Then we had Leuven and Vollum, Toy Shirt Hartel and Celio with a Klaus up top. And I'm like, I don't care what you're doing the back line because you're doing what's healthy. And I didn't see any Watts, Hebert, or Yarrow. So it was a positive for me.
Yeah, and those three of those guys you mentioned, I think, are some of your leading minutes getters this season. So, I mean, a very decisive decision from him to make. He really kind of put his neck out there, and I think he obviously benefited from it. So let's talk about some of the things we took away from this game, Justin. We're going to keep it, I think, pretty thematic in this analysis, but a couple things I want to start off the bat with was transitions. And this is not new. We definitely are able to print some money off of transitions even before Critchley joins up. But I could see a renewed focus on playing that transitional game, especially in attack, and leading with a guy like Berkey on some of these transitions. I mean, obviously his distribution is always a big weapon for us, but I cited one example of him hitting a beautiful side volley punt to Celio almost on the foot that led to a Leuven cross, which led to that Klaus header that just went wide of the post. Leuven playing some beautiful long balls to Klaus after kind of dropping back to receive it. We have that, to me, or getting back to, again, this is one game, but what I saw was a little bit of both. And again, it was janky, and we'll talk about the net positives, net negatives after this. But I saw a renewed interest in committing numbers forward, not just hoisting the sails and getting back and making sure we don't concede and playing super conservative. But I saw us get out in the front foot, grow a little bit of courage deep down there, and actually go for it at times. And so I really appreciated that, Justin. Did you see the same?
I did. And I think that really coins the term that Critchley said, that he wants to attack like we defend and defend like we attack, because I really do think, and you have a point here, well, we were much quicker to react and close things down quickly, which I think is huge in this game because we've been giving teams loads of space. We've seen that as we talked through either goals that they scored or chances other teams have created. So I think that was a big one for us. The other one I wanted to mention, that was you remember when we did this like past 2 years where it's like a highlight into a low light? I thought Zande Silva, I always do that. When he carried the ball probably like 40 yards from half line all the way down, he was going up almost down the middle left, and then he tries to open his hips and send like a curler. And you're just not going to get that much power on it. I think if you're going to go ahead and do it, man, do what you've done for the first 10 games or so or 5 games we watch you this season, and just put your laces through it. I don't care if you send it into the stands, but putting a weak shot on net like that. Positive note, dribbling, taking it 40 yards of space, you got to make a better decision in the end. Either dish it into somebody that's being slotted in or back out wide and recirculate it so where you can hold the ball in their offensive third, but don't put a weak shot on that like that.
Becoming a very polarizing figure in the fan base, I think in his early tenure with the club, I think you see some high highs in the quality he has in the ball. You also see some lapses, especially just defensive, just sort of giveaways and maybe a dropping of the head, not as much effort getting back. We'll talk about it later here, Justin. Maybe not in this show, but I'm going to give him plenty of time to get settled, get acclimated. He's our player. We're going to believe in him. But you've seen a mixed bag from him so far. What I saw on the very positive side on Saturday day, so fun to have a day game, was the pressing. The intensity was back. We were in the pockets of these attackers. Lots of fouls. The fouls are also back. We had tied for the most this season for us in any game. We had 18 fouls on this, but that can be good. Sometimes it gets a little ticky-tacky and you don't want to have that all the time. Just stop in the game, stop starting. But to get in their faces, to make them uncomfortable, 18 fouls, I wouldn't have said 18 if you just asked me after the game because I didn't notice it like that. But that shows me there is a renewed focus on putting pressure on your opponent and not just letting them come into our final third and letting them take space and just kind of do, again, the horseshoe in and around us and kind of poke and prod. I appreciated that. We had 21 tackles, second most for us this season. We had 15 of those were won. So that was the most this season. And 5 of them in the final third, which brings me to the next point, is the intensity is also being focused on in our final third. In the opponent's defensive third, we're really kind of putting on that counter press or that higher press in the right moments most of the time, to see if we can win the ball back and win it in a dangerous area. You cut off a lot of distance between you and the goal, and you can make something happen with limited personnel where you can get turnovers there. So I liked seeing that. Also like their midfield, Justin. How'd you feel about the midfield duo of Leuven and Wallum?
I thought it was great until it wasn't. And sorry, that's where my mind has been ever since you were talking about the fouls. The Wallum getting the second yellow was just idiotic in my opinion. And it's one that I went to go look. And so now he leads the team with 4 yellows. We're going to have to look this up unless you remember off the top of your head. But so he's going to be missing this Sunday game, Sunday Night Soccer versus Portland. And so what if he gets in the next game, gets another yellow? That'd be his 5th. Then does he sit again? I'm gonna have to look that up, and we can look at. I gotta go into the intricacy of the MLS rules, and I have a feeling not, because I bet you somewhere in the previous 15 games he had a stretch of 5 straight games without a yellow, and
Yeah.
that's where these MLS rules, the whole GAM, TAMs,
Yeah.
and these a lot of different things to think about. But sorry, didn't mean to derail us, but they did well all the way until Wallem just making a dumb mistake and something that you just got to be smarter on. And you know that he's hitting himself for it. He's a professional. He gets it. But something that is just extremely frustrating, because that's a guy that I would love to see on Sunday night against Portland.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm going to pull that into our end game analysis here. I think there's a lot to take away from the very end of the game, but so amazing having Edie Leuven back. I am so thrilled for him too on a personal level. I know he's sounds like he's going still through a lot with, his family and his partner Ilona, and we send all of our thoughts and prayers to their family as they work through all this. It sounds like, again, very day-to-day type atmosphere, but for him to, again, like, not contextualize, compartmentalize all that's going on the side and put your heart and soul into this match for 90 minutes and play like he did, by the way, without a lot of minutes under his belt this season, given the extensive, absences he's had. I was uber impressed. He didn't look nearly as rusty as he had looked in the US Open Cup game. Maybe part of that coming from the City 2 minutes the week before, but Leuven, God, we missed you, man. What a presence he brings to the midfield, and a presence on the set pieces. Justin, I was elated to watch our corner kicks, because what we talked about, the Hartel service, he can be good on his quality and good on where he wants it to go, but that pace is never really there. And I feel like the pace is really what creates the chaos in the box on these set pieces. And my word, Leuven brings chaos. I mean, that he'll miss, by the way, he'll miss every once in a while. He might sky one over, doesn't even enter the field of play. But if I'm a defender, if you're a defender in that box, Justin, trying to clear this and that ball's getting fizzed in, it's scary times.
Oh, absolutely. He's not doing. I feel like Hartel does a good job at. You mentioned it prior to that he can pick out guys, but they're more floating. Leuven is absolutely driving these balls, and that's why you can see him spray one absolutely. But as a defender, it's so scary, because all we need for our Klaus is just a little touch.
Yep.
And that's just a little bit of a redirect, and that ball has still got 30 miles per hour speed on it, and it's going in the back of the net. To your point on his minutes, Jake, he only has 90 more minutes than Totland.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Totland in so long, and hasn't been able to actually get a full 90 in, and it's been something that we've been frustrated with, but it's kind of insane to think about and sad.
It is. It is. Well, let's talk about the end game here, Justin, before we highlight some individuals and kind of break down the rest of our thoughts on this game. But I felt a little bit better. Endgame was a pain point of ours through the majority of the season so far underneath Melberg, where everything just gets nervy. The ball's a grenade. We have a lead. We can't hold it. If we're behind, we can't come back. And I didn't see a lot. And by the way, not that I was expecting this to be solved in game one underneath Critchley, but I saw marginal improvements. We were still nervy. Obviously, San Jose scored in the 82nd minute. We tried to clear the ball. They recycled the possession, exploited some space down our left flank, and then swung in a cutback with, by the way, Joseph Martinez, great finish. I'm not sure how much more Baumgartel could have done about that. But you know what makes for a better end game after that? You go out and get the game-winning goal, our first ever in stoppage time for the club, in the first team at least. The 90+2. Betcher having, I think, a mixed bag of a season in terms of what you'd expect from him, right? Because the finishing has not been there. The effort's always there with him, and that has never been a doubt, which is one thing you can always count on him for, and I think that still brings value, even if the finishes aren't there. But he's been missing some chances, and he missed this chance, but he also created the chance, and the chance obviously guarded us a PK. I think it was Floriani, Justin, that he took on with his head ball. He timed it right. He used his body really well. He was super strong in the challenge and got down into the box, drew the contact from their goalkeeper. He kind of flubbed his lines right before that, but still gets the contact, wins the PK. Leuven buries it. Again, great story, great ribbon or bow on top of that night for Edu Leuven. But Betcher, I do want to give his credit for, because that's something you haven't seen from us this season or ever in terms of stoppage time, going out and grabbing a game winner.
Yeah, two things on that, Jake. One, you're also not going to see it in the stat sheet, but it's something that is just as important as the finishing of the PK itself, because without him, we're not going to get it there. Two, I want to give a huge shout out as well to Klaus. He was one that mentioned it, and he was like, Simon's been working, being a workhorse for us all season, and this really showed how strong he is as a player. This would be a guy that, like, when you're kind of jogging around with him, like, oh, maybe he's like 5'10", doesn't look that strong. Once he gets on the ball, it's a guy that it is extremely hard to get off it. And yes, he took a little bit too much of a touch there, but he did the right thing, got his body in between him and the goalkeeper, and drew that PK. The next note that you have here, I want to give a good shout out to Chris Gebhardt here, letting us know. He said, "Hey, FYI, fellas, Wallem is on 4 yellows. He did have one reduced earlier for 5 straight games with that one. Next yellow is a game suspension."
That's a bummer. That's a bummer. I mean, you could be looking at 2 absences coming up here very shortly for a while, because that gets to my, you know what makes for a bad end game, Justin? When someone just makes a boneheaded mistake. And that's all you can attribute Wallums to. He took a real yellow legitimately 2 minutes prior to taking the second, which was a sportsmanship, going off the field, balling out of play, kicking it farther, messing with the guy. Like, we just don't need that. That is not how you kill games. You can do a lot, by the way, in these rules. That's not one of those things. So really disappointing red to take. Added some fury to the game that I don't think we needed in that moment. And we're going to miss him in Portland because he's been a huge key to this team so far this season. Individuals I want to highlight, Justin, quickly before we move on to the rest of the show is I thought Dirk and Baumgartel held up, sturdy, especially Baumgartel. Obviously, Dirk had come off at half with some knee issues, but Baumgartel, I'm liking that game. He might be one of the best fitting, besides Kessler, center backs, like actual center backs in a 4-back system that we have. So I see him probably becoming part of the best 11 and replacing Nilsson, such we never seem to see him ever when he's healthy. So I thought he had a really strong game. I loved the balls on David Critchley to roll with Reed 22 and Zielinski 23 as your fullbacks in this match. Neither of them having tons of minutes of fitness, but both, I think, acquitting themselves relatively well. Nothing groundbreaking, right? I thought Berkey had a solid, sneakily solid game as well. He won that header, very good call out at midfield, just getting off his line, cutting out the counterattack, cutting off the long ball. I thought he had a sneaky good game. Fun fact here, Justin, I want you to take the Klaus of this because I thought Klaus was my obviously man of the match. Exceptional game from him, but Hartel didn't have a lot to say about his performance. I like that he's being freed up to move just more advanced upfield now with the Leuven Wallem kind of sitting behind him. But Hartel has traveled the 3rd most distance in the league this season. We have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the guy that should be on the list for us. Like, if Durkin was healthy, you'd expect to see him there, maybe even Leuven. Hartel should not be that, but I think it speaks volumes to the role that he's been playing underneath Melberg, where he's both our guy going forward and the guy has to drop back to receive and help us progress the ball. He has covered 121 miles in 16 games played this season. Again, 3rd in the league. I was blown away to hear that.
Jake, I'm no math guy, but out of 6, if you did 16 full 90s, which he doesn't even have that's an average of 7.56 miles per game that this guy is running. And let's just remind people that, yeah, that's a lot to run. No, this man is sprinting, I would say, for a good probably over half of that when you think about that. And it's a lot of quick cutting and things like that. This is something that I would say it's probably a little bit of a struggle for us. And hopefully that number goes down, Jake, because I do think that he was struggling to find the game earlier in the season when we were going through our lulls. And it's a guy that you need to have on the ball. And if he's either in the top 2 or even in the top 5, we'd see him drop back with the center backs just to be able to get the ball on his foot. And I think that's where a lot of that running came from. But the one thing that I would say, and I know you already have your man of the match, my man of the match as well, it's actually going to be separate, is Mr. Leuven. Just with, I know the easy, yes, you got a goal and it's a PK. People would take that away. He also had the assist on the Klaus ball. But like you said, Jake, and you already mentioned it, it's just great to see him out there. Unfortunately, I thought he was a little out of shape when he first came back. I really do think that it ended up just being that he had a buzz cut and a really thick beard. Trim that beard down, he looked like a slim man. He put a 90 in. He put his big boy pants on, and he absolutely dominated this game, and I love to see it.
Maybe that's what I need to do. I see him trim the beard, and I'll be thin as well. But no, yeah, obviously, like I said, mine was Klaus, and I took Mike's analysis from his recent Substack. By the way, everyone, go subscribe to Chat City Tactics on Substack, on X, on Instagram. He puts out some great content, and he had this to say about Klaus. Delivered another great performance with 0.6 expected goals created and converted a 0.49 expected goal great chance. Say what you want about his finishing, but he has scored 8 goals from 13 great quantified chances when it comes to expected goals, easily surpassing the average MLS conversion rate of 53%. So again, 8 of 13, better than 53%. So he's our guy. His hold-up play was exceptional. Went 8 for 12 in duels. He is a dog, and he is our designated player. And in this game, he was playing like one. So I'm expecting to see big, big things from him. Before Portland, Justin, I want to move to just net this game out. Positives, we're undefeated this season when scoring 2+ goals. There's a key to the game already for Portland, Justin. Score two, you're undefeated, you're coming home with some points. We also allowed some of the least expected goals against in this game all season for us. It was in the top five. Remember how good our defense was earlier in the season? This was showing some of that in terms of statistics, at least. We also carried a threat on like the field tilt side. When I mean that, I say we had second most touches of this season for us in the opponent 18, the most carries in the opponent's 18 as well for us this season. Negatives, and not only negatives, Justin, is just things we're still seeing is it was clunky, right? Like it was a new system. We're still getting used to it. Critchley's been there for like 3 hours by the time we played that game. It's clunky. The buildup wasn't amazing, which I think is normal in a period of transition. And I think you're still some individual lapses, which Critchley can have maybe some control or put his hands into. Otherwise, like things like what Silva does sometimes, you can't explain. Wallum getting the second yellow, you can't explain that. So you're going to need to clean those up. You can't give teams any sort of way back into these games like those, I would say. But the negatives, I really expect to see like the clunky buildup hopefully get hashed out over these next coming weeks.
Absolutely. I think this is one that I thought this was a fantastic performance, and I know you did as well. But even more when you think about that, we have been playing with five in the back for the first 15 games of the season. So now that we just kind of flip a switch and turn on it, I was a little worried that we were going to have just a silly mistake or things of that nature. And I think the guys really came together, especially when you throw three guys in the back line that have not played more than 10 minutes together. When you think about Durkin, Zielinski, and Reed, like that's just a shocker to me that we didn't have an absolute blunder. And if we did, Roman Berkey was there to save us. But Jake, I thought overall it was an incredible game, and I'm excited for us to be talking about Portland, which is going to be a Sunday night soccer match, 6 p.m. on Sunday Central Time. But quickly, before we go into that, I'm going to mention City 2 is up 1-0. There actually seems to be an injury on the field right now. I wish I would have saw that so I could have let you know who it was. But also, again, right after this, 23 minutes from now, our boys with Dueling for Lincoln are going to be kicking off on YouTube for the TST soccer tournament. Winner take all $1 million prize. This is day one of that. You should be tuning in.
It was Heiskalainen on that goal, dude. I want to see him. He's putting up some numbers in City 2 and MLS Next Pro. I was high on him when we drafted him, so I want to see more of Heiskalainen, and I bet we will maybe with the course. Because again, Critchley comes from this team. I know he'll be willing to blood some of these players. So exciting. But let's talk about Portland, Justin. We've had a mixed history with them, I would say. In the past 2023, we split 2-1 win away, 2-1 loss at home. In 2024, and by the way, that win was part of that 5-game opening streak of just taking names that we had in 2023. In 2024, we drew at home 0-0. Then we won at home in the Leagues Cup group stage. And then we drew 4-4 later on in the season. An absolute barn burner of that game. But Portland's off to a pretty fine start this season. Fifth in the West, 26 points, 7-4-5, win-loss draw. Goals for 25 against 22, so they have a nice positive goal differential there. At home, they're 4-1-3, so a pretty strong home team. But we'll talk about some of the underlying things, which I'm not as convinced on there. In the regular season, a 1-0 W versus Sporting Kansas, a draw 1-1 against Galaxy. Not looking great. They did get their first win, though, Justin. Galaxy are off the board. They do have that win. 3-3 draw against LAFC, a 1-1 draw against Seattle. Most recently, though, they're coming off a 2-1 win versus Colorado. Obviously, we weren't able to do that. But what to look for, Justin, in this team? This is Phil Neville. Remember, Phil Neville is the coach of Portland Timbers right now. He also likes his 4-2-3-1. So tell us more about what we're expecting to see here as we travel up to Portland.
This is a team that is honestly a little bit more dangerous than I would appreciate. They're not going to be a team that you're looking at one guy individually. They're going to have more of a three-headed attack. And what are they going to be doing with that? It's really looking for transitions and quick attacks, and even using the flanks to do that as well. They have a target man that they're going to be using, but ultimately, Jake, like you and I were looking at this, I just thought that they had an incredible amount of assists. And I thought this was going to be like, oh, one of the top assist teams in the MLS. No, technically it's Miami with all the goals they're scoring, but they have two guys who are number one and number two in the MLS with assists. So this is going to be a huge one for us when we look into transitions. Our rest defense, that's going to be a massive one for us here. David Critchley talked about it. We cannot be on our heels and thinking, oh, we have the ball, we're not going to get countered, because when these guys get the ball, they like to go.
And part of the flip side of rest defense too, Justin, is you have to be able to contain the ball as well. Like that's the other side people don't talk about is rest defense is get your positioning right when you have the ball. So when the ball turns over, you're in a good spot to defend the counter potentially or counter press in our case. But you also need to be able to have the ball. in the opponent's half of the field. I know David Critchley also mentioned today in press about wanting to up our field tilt percentage. So just time spent in the opponent's half of the field. I think we're in 45 for this past match. He wants to get us up 10% from that into the 55 range. Because if you're, again, possessing in the other half, rest defense becomes really important because you are possessing. And when that ball turns over, you've got to be ready to make a decision. But I agree, Justin, transitions, flank play, Portland, key things to think about. Kevin Kelsey, a great striker, aerial header guy, very good on his positioning as well. DaCosta we'll talk about as well as a midfield threat. But they also have Diego Chara bolstering the midfield, an absolute veteran in this league, who is a great defender as well as can really distribute the ball well. And then defensively, they have some good young talents to build around. They have a good cohesive sort of unit that doesn't, in my experience at least, tend to lapse under pressure. But I do think they can be susceptible at home. Justin, they have not lost in their last 5 matches. They only have 1 loss at home this season, so they're in some good form at home. They've also never failed to score at a home game this season either. But I'll caveat, Justin, in the whole league, home and away, they're number 21 in expected goals this season. At home, they're number 27 at home. So they definitely take a nosedive a little bit in the goal creation or the chance creation column at home, which I thought was really interesting. And defensively, a little bit similar. They're the bottom 10 in terms of expected goals allowed, but they're bottom 5 at home. So they kind of take a little bit of a dive on both sides when they do go home, but they're churning out results, which is all that really matters in the end.
Exactly. It seems like this team is a little bit more gritty when they get it home. But the one thing I wanted to note too, Jake, that when I was looking through their schedule, they had 6 regular season matches in the month of May that we just exited that month. They only scored 5 goals in those regular season matches. They had a total of 8 games. They had 3 goals against Tacoma Defiance, who's an MLS Next Pro team. But then if you want to count the other MLS team they played against, they scored 0 again. So this is a team that, yeah, they're getting results, but it's kind of gritty. And when do they get these results, Jake? 3/4 of their goals come from the middle 45 minutes. You're going to say either side of halftime, which unfortunately that has been a little bit of a weakness for us this season. I'm not going to say right before half. It's usually us coming out of the second half and a little bit of a slow start. Almost 2/3 of their goals against come from the first half, though. So this is one that we should be hopping on and trying to get right after them. Jake, Mateo Kidd just scored for City 2 in the 39th minute. We are up 2-0 on our boys from North Texas.
Wow. We should record during every City 2 game. This is great. You gotta love it. Keys to get at this team, Justin, before you walk us through some key players and guys to think about on the pitch. I think defensively, we've got to look to disrupt the game plan, especially a guy like DaCosta, who I know you'll talk about, David DaCosta. If you can get into his head, get into his space, make him uncomfortable, have him always feel a shoulder or a leg, cutting in front of him as he's receiving the ball, make his life really difficult. I think you'll have a good potential in this game if you can disrupt David DaCosta and limit that service into their central target man like Kevin Kelsey. On the offensive side of the ball, we've got to bring some flank play as well. Like, let's expose those fullbacks. Let's get in behind. Let's stretch this game out as far as we can and make them have to get back and defend. I think that will be a big thing for us, as well as set pieces, Justin. You've got Leuven back now. You're hoping he's available again for this next one. They've shown vulnerabilities on the set piece defense side. So if we can execute some good dead ball situations, whether from free kicks or from corner kicks, you can carry a known threat against this team. So those are 3 things that I'm kind of keeping top of mind.
I would say the other things we need to keep top of mind, Jake, is marking guys, and that'll end up being one of my keys to the game. But who do we need to be marking and focusing on? Anthony, winger, he has 5 goals, 7 assists. That leads the team in goal contributions with 12. He's also has the second most minutes on the team, and that's right behind the other 2-headed monster, David DaCosta, who has 2 goals and 8 assists, leading their team in minutes played. He's played in all but 92 minutes across their 16 total games. So when you look at those 2, Jake, they are tied for first in the MLS in assists with David DaCosta and tied for second with Anthony, and a goal contribution between them of 22 between 2 guys. But you've already mentioned it. They're not the only 2 you need to be worried about. Kevin Kelsey, 5 goals, 0 assists, but all within 626 minutes. He's only started 6 of the 15 games. So he's scoring a goal. What is that, about 1 every 125 minutes? The man knows how to finish. And lastly, another guy that knows how to finish on their team is Felipe Mora, a winger. He has 5 goals, 3 assists. Then that's one. He has a goal contribution every 108 minutes. So this is a team that, like I said, I'm a little concerned when it talks about the transition and us being able to have our rest defense in form. And I do think that hopefully This is something that Critchley's been working on with the guys because we cannot be caught ball watching when we have the ball, and we need to make sure we know where you're at and we're in good positions because these guys will counter and they will counter fast.
3 guys with 5 goals we just talked about right here. So it really is a three-headed monster. And you've got the one that we didn't talk about is the one we didn't talk about with the goals has 8 assists. So I mean, these guys, if you can again disrupt their flow, disrupt their rhythm, I think you stand a good chance because that roster really is depending on these guys to produce that output. But Justin, I depend on partners and friends and family to make sure that I'm at my best on the home front. We are delighted to have Hoffman Brothers as our partner for 2025 as part of Ball Watching. And I was delighted, Justin, to hear and see some of the amazing things that Hoffman Brothers is doing in and around St. Louis, especially in the time of need, right? With the storm damage, the tornadoes. We had tornado sirens going off today. I heard there was maybe some touchdown as well in the area, but obviously they're seeing a lot of that damage. They're being, asked to come out, look at things, especially like electrical systems and AC units or homes. Also, don't forget they do businesses and commercial business as well. So they're looking at all this, Justin, and they're getting their hands dirty, not just on the front there, but also dip it into the back pockets, partnering with an organization like Ferguson Roofing. And then they donated $100,000 to Urban League St. Louis. We know Urban League is driving a lot of that distribution for food, toiletries, all that stuff to all the affected areas and affected people in and around St. Louis. So I love to see it. A company, an organization that cares about you as the consumer, but also about the community. And Hoffman Brothers is absolutely killing it.
These are guys, Jake. I know we had another call with them today. It feels nice to know that we have a sponsor that is this kind and this caring about the community. It's not someone like, oh, we just want to get our name out there. These guys are truly getting in the field and picking up trees. And regardless if it's AC units or not, they're just looking to help and donate money. And this is one. So I'm extremely proud to be presented by the presenting sponsor of Ball Watching, Hoffman Bros. You can call them at 314-664-3011, or you can visit them at hoffmanbros.com. Jake, I think that is a perfect segue to bring us into our Hoffman Brothers predicted starting 11.
All right, Justin. We've got a fun exercise today because we didn't talk about the people that really came back or got some minutes in this last game, but Tolan came back, Kessler came back, Morales got some time on the field as well. So this would be my 11. I'll just roll through it entirely, Justin. You tell me where you disagree, agree. And part of this is from some injury news as well. But start with Berkey, obviously between the sticks. Jay Reed did play in the City 2 game. It sounds like the story there. They just want to get him some minutes, make sure he's keeping fresh, getting that back into, because again, he's still fresh. Like he has not fully recovered, gotten all those minutes underneath his legs, gotten back up to speed. Good way to get it going. I doubt he plays the full 90 tonight. I expect him to slot back in, especially with Wallum out of this match. So Jay Reed on the left, Baumgartel on the left center back, Kessler at right center back, and Toland. And that's because Durkin, I don't know what the situation is with him with the knee. I assume that he just came back. You do not want to push that right now. Got to be careful. And obviously you have Yarrow and Hebert waiting in the wings. Nelson, you're not expecting to see. Horn, I wouldn't expect to see sit in that center back position. You could see Horn come in at left back if Jay Reed isn't available, but I don't love Horn at left back either. So I'm going with Reed there. And Toland, I'm giving a go here for a nice 90 or at least 50 to 60 minutes. I would love to see out of him at right back. Going up the field, Morales, Leuven sitting in. Wallum was there last match, obviously suspended here. So I'm having Morales play that sort of defensive holding side of this while Leuven can advance more up the field and kind of connect play. I'm having Celio maintain on the left wing. I'm having Hartel sit in the central attacking midfield. Betcher, I'm putting at right wing here. And again, not because I think he's a great fit, but he will stretch the field. He will work his ass off all match. And I want to see him and Klaus continue to play together. We don't get to see them together very often. So I think this is a good match to do so. Obviously, Klaus up top with Teuscher sort of under the weather with whatever hammy issue he was dealing with there. What do you think about that 11?
I was kind of surprised at first when I saw this, but now the way that we talked through it this episode, yeah, Reed, especially being up 2-0, I don't see him getting a full 90 here. And I don't think people need to be worried about a Wednesday night match because it's Sunday night soccer that we're going to be having. So he has another full day in between there. It'd be like City 2 typically playing on a Tuesday. So I do think we'll have Reed start there. I love Baumgartel and Kessler in the middle because I agree with you. There's no need to push Durkin. I have no clue what's been going on with Nilsson. And then obviously I do not think that Yarrow Hebert should be playing there. And then I would like to see Toland get a start there at right back. Morales, Leuven, I'll definitely obviously go with Leuven. Morales, the only thing I could see switched out there would be Ostrak, but I actually would rather see Morales there because I think he will hold a little bit more than Ostrak will. And I also saw Ostrak give the ball away. I think it was 2 games ago, a couple times that I didn't really appreciate. So I really do like what you have up top with the top 4, though, with Celio, Hartel, Betcher, and Klaus. We don't know what's going on with Toy Shirt, obviously, as well. And he's not probably, there's no need to push that either. And you even mentioned it last time. I don't know if Toy Shirt was really the guy that it feels like he's been in a little bit of a rut. So I would almost like to see him sit here, even if he is fully healthy, kind of think about it. And then when he comes on, really truly make an impact. So I'd love to see a Celio, Hartel, Betcher, and Klaus up top. And that makes me feel very good about our offense. And then obviously I always skip over it, but Jake, something that we should never skip over is just having Berkey between the sticks, because you don't know if it's going to happen again next season. So that is something that we have been so reliant on. And I'm extremely happy that he is still here, and something that just needs to get a shout out more often.
I agree. No, I agree. I like that. I like that shout. Goals for the game, predictions for the game, Justin. My goal is for us to come out flying, similar to like we did on Saturday. I know we'll be away from home, even more incentive to do so. Throw them off. Come out swinging, bring out some relentless pressure, and bring that real like go for it attitude. You know, the Critchley attitude, right? Like we're not scared of the Portland Timbers. I know they're a good franchise in history, and they're 5th in the league, way above us this season. Don't care. We're going to come out swinging. We have nothing to lose here. We're coming for points. We're coming for 3 points, frankly. So I want to see that attitude. And I think tangibly, I want to see them get into halftime even. You have a fighting chance at this game. We know how desperate the Portland Timbers can be in the first half in terms of accumulating goals. So can you shut them down and give yourselves a chance to go into the end game with a chance to grab at least a point, if not all 3?
Yeah, my goal, Jake, and sorry, I was looking this up because I was also looking up some lines during the game. But my goal for this is no goals due to poor marking. I already mentioned it earlier. They have 2 of the top assist guys in the MLS. They have 3 guys with 5 goals. If you remember correctly, Jake, we only had 3 guys with 5 goals in the whole season last year, and that actually led our team. So they have this halfway through the year. So my goal here is do not give up a goal due to poor marking, because if you do that, that means it leaves Mr. Roman Berkey out to dry. If we mark everybody and we get them off center, I truly trust that Berkey can have a clean sheet here. So that is my goal for this game. Jake, I'm going a little bit more optimistic. I'm going with a 2-1 dub here. I think these guys, if you look at that starting lineup up top, I think we're going to be coming in here hot. And I would really love to see us on, as we're starting to get healthy, then we have guys coming off the bench. We talk about how deep we're about to be now as well. And I truly think that we're going to be reliant on Roman Berkey in this game. And I think he can keep them to only 1 goal.
Yeah, my hesitation. So I'm rolling with a 1-1 draw here. And by the way, I think take all of the scars out of the first half of the season so far. I think a 1-1 draw going away to Portland is not a bad result. When you take a lot of the context out of it, it is an away game, right? And it's a tough place to go play. It's not easy. They make it real difficult. The fans are a lot there. Any away game's usually more difficult, obviously, but they've shown a good, proficiency in accumulating points at home. I think they'll make our job very, very difficult. They'll be a stiff test. I think stiffer than what we saw in San Jose. I don't think San Jose brought their best stuff. But can you continue scoring against this team? I think if you can get one, I definitely think we have a serious chance in this game. So I've got 1-1 draw on the mind for us. I'm hoping for more. Again, I read the 11, Justin. I have hope in that 11. If that's what Critchley rolls with, that again feels to me like front foot soccer. I'm going to come out in this game and I'm going to go for it. And I don't care who you throw at us. Like that's what that screams to me. So I feel tempted to change it as I'm hearing it and talking about it more, but I think a 1-1 draw would be a success.
Oh, it'd absolutely be a success, but I think it's even going to be a bigger success when
All
we're
right.
at games. And I think that's something that we can truly do. And Jake, when we're looking at that, we're going to be putting together an underdog entry as well. So if you haven't already, sign up for underdog and you can make your first deposit and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash only if you use that promo code ball watching. So this is a thing that if you are in Missouri, this is available to you. This is not one of those things where you need to go outside of the state to ultimately try to make some money on your favorite player stats. This is a place to do it. You can tail us and you can follow us on our entry that we'll be posting for Sunday night's match.
Yeah, should be some good projections here, right? We have a lot of forwards that are playing in the game now. I'm looking to see some good Klaus projections, probably some Celio projections. A Celio goal or assist kind of feels a little enticing in this. I kind of feel due in that. Might need to feature in our entry. I think that could be a nice juicy one if so, but we'll definitely be doing it. Obviously, all eyes are on Sunday Night Soccer. Not all eyes, but a lot of eyes are on Sunday Night Soccer. So ours will be, and our entry and a little bit of our dough will be as well.
And Jake, just a heads up for anybody else that wants to know, like, are we favored in this game? Oh, we are very much not. The Timbers are minus 140 and we are plus 290. The draw of plus 285 is the first time I've seen in a while, Jake, that the draw is less than our money line. So looking there, Jake, also, if you want to, I think the easiest thing that if anybody wants to do a little side hustle is the double chance. We are even money on the double chance. And also our over 1.5 goals, Jake, is plus 150. I think this is one of those things that, yeah, typically though on away games, you usually wait a little bit longer because people usually ride the home team a little bit more.
Yeah.
But a little sprinkle on a Celio goal plus 500.
Oh,
You might need to do that.
I might need to. So yeah, obviously you all can follow us on that entry. And if you want to sprinkle elsewhere, that is your prerogative. But thank you all for listening today to the show. We'll be back with you for a recap of the Portland match and heading into a fun Eastern Conference tilt as well against Orlando. But again, riding this tide right now, a lot of positivity, a lot of hopium being hoofed as the boys try to right the wrongs of the early part of the season underneath the banner of David Critchley. It's been exciting so far, and I'm hoping for more positivity ahead. Justin, everyone have a great rest of your week. Make sure that you tune into the match. Roll City 2 here, off to a 2-0 lead at time of recording, hoping for 3 points in the bag, and the club moves forward. But in the meantime, all for City.
All for City.